uncertainty, too much pain. Some are here with questions. Where is the boat going? How best to steer it? Where this journey ends? Others are here as lovers of the journey, lovers of life itself. Here in front, beside, behind, each a passenger, each a captain, doing the best we can. Rest here in your boat with me, the river calls. Listen to how I flow, the sound of life coursing all around you. Let the current hold you. Let the current guide you. The river that gently flows through your soul whispers, "Come, let us worship." It is. Hello. I welcome you all here to the River Road Unitarian Universalist congregation, a congregation I am quickly learning is vibrant and exciting and ready to meet the moment. For all of you who are in person, those watching online, and those watching in replay, thank you for being here. Your presence matters, no matter who you love, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from or why you are here with us. Welcome. Your presence matters. My name is the Reverend Kimberley Debus. I am a community minister living in Tacoma Park, so not too far. And it is an honor to be here. My work covers congregational life, worship, liturgy, hymns, and spiritual deepening. Our service today is the second of two, where I have joined you in considering how we might combat the lure of the 7 deadly words of the church. But we've always done it this way. And what it means to shift the ways we do things in our congregations to meet this moment, this remarkable moment of transformation and call. We begin our time together by inviting each other on the journey. Please join me in singing. Come sing a song with me. You may rise in body or spirit. Come sing a song with me. Come Thank you. You may be seated.
Good morning. If we haven't met yet, I'm Reverend Karen Rasmussen, and I'm so happy to be your affiliate minister. And welcome to everybody here and in YouTube land, and of course, up there in the balcony. Our reading this morning is The Church That Doesn't Matter by Kelly Wiseman Jackson. In the church that doesn't matter, there are no quarrels and no arguments, and no one ever says anything they regret at the meeting to discuss the sanctuary's new paint color. There's nothing to inspire such passionate intensity because none of the decisions of the church touch anybody's heart, and no one lives or dies by its choices or even feels for a moment that they might. Everything is as easy as pie. In the congregation that doesn't matter, no one has to ask for money or even talk about it much. There's always enough to go around. There's always enough because no matter how much there is, there's always less to do with it. The vision always shrinks to undermatch the means, so the canvas season is always a breeze. In the church that doesn't matter, no one ever disagrees with the preacher's sermon. The music is always just fine. There's never a fight about the liturgy, not even if the joys or sorrows, and not even if you're going to stop those joys or sorrows. There's never any controversy because no one ever says anything that they really care about. And no one ever seems to really care. Because of this, the service is always equally inoffensive at both 9 and 11 o'clock. The sounds of children during worship, the recruitment of Sunday school teachers, the compensation of professional religious educators, and the size and the condition of the space dedicated to the religious education, none of these things are ever really talked about or thought about in the congregation that it doesn't matter. Those issues just seem to take care of themselves somehow out there somewhere. No one ever has to clean up in the church because it doesn't matter, or figure out the old electrical system, or consult the building codes, or climb a ladder. If no one bothers to make coffee on a Sunday, no one complains. And if no one ever greets the visitors, no one ever seems to mind. Everything is easier in the congregation that doesn't matter. The total solution to all the frustrations of congregational life requires no consultants or manuals or webinars. Simply avoid, at all costs, meaning and purpose, and anything that might lead you to do either or both. Whatever you do, don't let yourself care about the people around you or the covenant that you share. Yet knowing this, we still decide again and again to ask the tough questions, to take real risks, to do the work that needs doing, and to tell the truth. We decide to tell the truth. We get out of bed on Sunday morning, we answer that email, we make something imperfect but still sweet for the bake sale, and we give our time and our attention to a meeting every third Thursday. We ask each other, how are you doing? And we mean it. We make phone calls and craft projects for the first grade class. We offer our gifts both humble and great. And we do these things sometimes in joy and sometimes not in joy, because they are done in the service of a congregation, in the service of this congregation that matters.
We are living neath the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power, some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming other side. I am alone and I am searching, hungering for answers in my time. I am balanced at the brink of wisdom. I am impatient to receive a sign. I move forward with my senses open. Imperfection will be my crime. In humanity I will listen. We're all swimming to the other side. If you know it, sing along. We are living neath the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. On this journey through my thoughts and feelings, finding intuition, my head, my heart, I am gathering the tools together. I'm preparing to do my part. All of those who have come before me, band together and be my guide. Loving lessons that I will follow. We're all swimming to the other side. We are living neath the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. When we get there, we'll discover all of the gifts we've been given to share have been with us since life's beginning, and we never noticed they were there. We can balance at the brink of wisdom, never recognizing that we've arrived. Loving spirits will live together. We're all swimming to the other side. We are living neath the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. Loving spirits will live together. We're all swimming to the other side. I share this from Jeff Hollingsworth. It is with such great sadness that we are writing to let you know that Patrina Chong Hollingsworth passed away in her sleep early on the morning of July 5th. As many of you know, she had been fighting cancer for over 4 years and recently stopped treatments. Over the past week, she grew rapidly weaker, but was able to enjoy her meals over the past few days with local and out-of-town family and friends. We are planning a memorial service here at River Road in early August. Details will be shared as the plans develop. Nick, Matthew, and I are happy to hear from folks via text or email, but ask that you email first before calling or stopping by. I'll add, along with Nancy, knowing this loss grieves us so profoundly, your pastoral care team is here to support you. Please email us at pastoralcare@ruccc.org. That was me. There are so many losses, big and small. Our table of candles is available now and throughout the service should you feel the need to light a candle in memory or in prayer. Dear loving spirits gathered in this room and online, those people, that cloud of witnesses, they hold us. But we swim and have been and will continue to swim in a stream that is sometimes hard, sometimes full of pain and sorrow and loss. So I invite us to pause for a moment to pray. Spirit of life, mystery, that which holds all. We bring the complexities of our lives to this moment, seeking connection, consolation, and celebration. And we both seek and offer reminders that we are not alone. We offer our prayers of comfort for those whose sorrows are great. As you're comfortable, speak their names aloud so we may hold each other. Bill and Diane. We recognize that sorrow and joy are woven fine. And so we offer, too, our prayers of celebration for those whose joys are contagious. Let us speak their names aloud so we may cheer each other. Jacaren. Diana. And we offer our prayers of presence and empathy for those who find themselves betwixt and between. Let us speak their names aloud so we may bear witness to one another. Angeline. Gracious and loving parent of us all, we know that our world is hurting, and we pray for those who are in harm's way because of war or violence or oppressive laws. We pray for these many people so we may not forget the call of our faith to be agents of love in the world. For all of our prayers, those spoken and unspoken, we say amen and blessed be. And now let us pause and breathe our silent prayers into the space.
Thank you. Ours is a community of generosity where we do the hard but faithful work of building the beloved community together. To learn more about why we give of our financial treasure, you can check it out on our website at rruuc.org. There you can find information on our programs and our partnerships and all the ways to connect to the mission and the vision of this community. You can also give right there on the main page by clicking on the blue Give Online button. You can also text to give. The text to give number is 73256. That number again is 73256. And be sure to add RRUUC in the amount you would like to give. The number for text to give is also on your screen and can be found on the website as well. As 1 July starts our new church year, you can also pay some of your pledge if you'd like to. I think I will, and I think I have it right here. Thank you for your gifts, both in your time and your talent and your treasure. The offering will be received.
So I was going to begin the sermon by saying there are three kinds of itinerant preachers in Unitarian Universalism, but the truth is there are four. One of them is the kind of itinerant preacher who still isn't used to the humidity of DC summers. But other than that, there are, I think, three kinds. The first kind of preacher is the one who is pretty great, but mostly whose availability matches the gaps in your schedule and is certainly happy to bring you a nourishing message. The second kind is the preacher whose work is in a particular area, often social justice, and who has a handful of well-crafted sermons that they deliver often at the same place where they just did a workshop. The third is the person who is called in to deliver sometimes not always easy messages that a congregation maybe doesn't want to hear, but which needs to be said. Guess which one I am? Last week, I spoke about change in our faith, in our communities, in our congregations. I talked about how the road is muddy and rough, and a certain amount of trust, faith, and letting go is necessary if we are to build the right road to something better, something more inclusive, something more appropriate to the moment. That's a hard message to hear when you think you know your place and your role and struggle to see how what you are doing isn't better, isn't inclusive, isn't meeting the moment. Honestly, it's a hard message to hear even if you aren't sure of your place or know how to proceed or wonder what the moment is calling you to. We know how easy it is to rely on those 7 deadly words, but we've always done it this way. We all know how easy it is to stay in the rut because it is comfortable and it isn't entirely broken. To be honest, becoming the third kind of preacher required me to get out of my own rut. I preached, and I continue to preach, a series of lovely, affirming, spiritual growth messages that are well crafted and nourish everyone who hears them and don't really bother anybody. But I realize that I passionately love our congregations and our faith, and I want us, all of us, to risk being better. But how does that happen? Well, I left you with that question last week, but I also promised to look into my crystal ball. As it turns out, the crystal ball is not very clear. But when I reflect on my observations and experiences with our congregations, I do have some observations that seem to come out of nowhere, things that may help us with the how and guide us to a different way. So first, let me just say this. Leaders are exhausted. They're tired. They're so tired. And it's not surprising. Even before the pandemic, lay leaders and religious professionals were feeling exhausted. The demands of running our congregations and ministering to one another just seemed to increase. You add in the gish gallop of news and horrors that came outside of our congregations, and it was just one thing after another. Gone are the days of the country parson strolling across the village green without seemingly a care in the world, maybe even having enough time to solve mysteries in the British countryside. I'm looking at you, Father Brown. And I'm not sure exactly when this happened or how, but I have an idea that at some point in the 70s and 80s, we faced decline just when Christian evangelical churches were on the rise. And we decided we needed to be everything we could be on the liberal side of religion in order to have the greatest chance of attracting the most people. We even watched some of the programming they did, and we mimicked that. We increased programming. We built additions to accommodate more people. We planted more congregations to reach more people. And then as the internet age blossomed, we expanded those offerings too, more so when the pandemic struck. And of course, the demands went beyond simple management. As we learn more about the work we must do to dismantle systems of oppression both in our world and in our congregations. And we have been doing all of this in a culture that says we should be looking out for ourselves. look out for number one. We should be expecting a return on investment. To be making sure we're getting what we're paying for, and expecting accountability to look like a reality show where one day you're in and the next you're out. That stuff, that sneaky capitalist corporate stuff, it gets in everywhere, and it's infecting even us. Now, I want to be clear, I'm not saying that we Unitarian Universalists are entirely individualistic. Even Ralph Waldo Emerson's essay, Self-Reliance, is not actually about individualism. No, that's capitalism twisting Emerson's words and even ours, attempting to turn us away from a community of free believers to being isolated individuals sitting in a room together. From our very beginnings as a faith, we have been about community and community support. And it is that thread which is in fact countercultural, which then becomes really hard to fight against, both outside and inside our walls. Many of us work or have worked in systems consumed by corporatism and retail culture. We don't like a thing, we line up at the customer service desk to complain and then buy something else, which is fine when it's a toaster and less fine when it's a congregation's process. Okay, you probably didn't come here to hear me rant against capitalism, or maybe you did, and in which case, you're welcome. But my point is that we have built our congregations into organizations that are bigger and harder to manage than the bylaws and procedures allow. And we have built our congregations into organizations that are modeled on corporate structures. And that includes academic structures. We've not just done it in our congregations, we've done this to the entire Unitarian Universalist Association, by the way. In 2019, I served on the moderator search committee, looking for the people who would chair the UUA's Board of Trustees. And everyone who applied, first of all, everyone who applied were over 55 and white, and that wasn't entirely surprising. And it was the moderators that we now have, Charles Dumont and Meg Riley, who pointed out that the job had gotten so big that someone who worked a job, a full-time job, could not afford to do the work. It is why the previous co-moderators, Mr. Barb Grieve and Elandria Williams, were so burnt out, because they still had to work. And so retired people tend to take these positions. And one of the reasons we were so excited about Meg and Charles was that they saw what was wrong and endeavored, pre-pandemic, to begin shifting what that role looks like. How do we come together? And how do we do this work without being paid? How do we right-size it? How do we right-size it? How do we do this work? All right. Really? Really? Okay. Well, the crystal ball is telling me to share a story and a lesson from Barnes & Noble. I know, I just started ranting against capitalism, and here I am talking about retail, but, this sermon contains multitudes. About 6 months ago, I read an article talking about how Barnes & Noble, a bookseller whose market share utterly tanked as the digital age took hold. In the face of drastically declining sales, thanks largely to Amazon, and seeing their main bricks and mortar competitor Borders completely shut down, Barnes & Noble attempted to imitate Amazon and more. They expanded their offerings to include music, gifts and toys, a coffee shop. In some locations, they actually had a restaurant. And then, of course, they launched their ebook reader, the Nook. And by 2018, the 120-some-year-old company faced total collapse. And instead of closing for good, they hired a new CEO, James Daunt, who had saved the British-based bookstore Waterstones. And they followed Daunt's lead to try a different way, namely to go back to their roots, to go back to what they are best at, selling books. They stopped all the food and the electronics, the gifts and the games, and they even stopped kowtowing to market forces that often led to terrible decisions based on promotional money from publishers to push books that are often not the best. As Ted Gioia writes on his Substack, The Honest Broker, when Barnes & Noble put their passion for good writing front and center and allowed the staff to follow and affirm that passion, that vision, the company began again to thrive. They put books and readers first and everything else second. They have reopened stores, and they have come back to what is true, their sweet spot. So what happens when we stop trying to be all things to all people? We have a niche, and an important one at that. Our saving message is so desperately needed, and we must empower people to put that front and center. We don't need more meetings and more tasks. We don't need more ideas that we're just going to try because some other church did it. We need more energy focused on what will work to meet the moment. Now, the second solution, I see you, will sound very strange. It's the crystal ball's fault. But stick with me. We need to stop volunteering at our congregations. I see eyebrows raised, shocked looks. I'm not surprised, I know. What the ever-loving am I on about? And another article I read about 6 months ago, written by Erin Wathen, a minister who writes at Patheos. And she says this: you cannot volunteer at your own church in the same way you cannot babysit your own kid, because the church belongs to you in the same way your family does. It's your own place, your own people. So of course you help take care of it. Of course you do the yard work and make coffee and teach the kids and sing in the choir and whatever all else you do for the home and the people you love. A volunteer in most cases is just visiting, a flyby. Maybe it's a helpful flyby, but it's not the same as belonging to something. It's not the same as contributing to something bigger than you, something that's a part of who you are. Ultimately, she says, the language of volunteerism is secular, and more to the point, it is corporate. The notion is rooted in consumer culture in which we can swoop in and give or take a measure that we deem fit and then dart out again feeling we have done our part. We do a disservice to our faith when we reduce the work of the church to something you can mark on a time card. That's a mic drop. I'm not going to drop the mic, I promise. But the point is, this place matters. This is a congregation that matters. As you heard in the reading that Karen shared, we know that if a congregation didn't matter, nothing would happen and everything would just stay the same. And I know that's not true for you. So maybe, just maybe, we approach who we are and how we do things by shifting our relationship to what we do here. We cannot volunteer at our own congregation because the place belongs to us. It is of our making. And what we do at the congregation and for the congregation and on behalf of the congregation is not volunteerism, it's service. Now, some of our congregations say some version of the James Vila Blake covenant, which begins, "Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law." Others say service is its prayer. In other words, we are in service to the congregation and by extension to the faith and to the world. I know we're sometimes uncomfortable with that word service when it's aimed inward because often that word has been co-opted and corrupted by bad theologies elsewhere. But we are in service to one another because we're in relationship to one another. We are subject to one another, says Paul in the letters. We are in service to one another and our mission and our vision and our values. All of it, from changing the light bulbs to managing the finances, from leading worship to teaching the littles, all of it and more is ministry. That's what being in service is. It's ministry. And it's ministry that we all share. This means not only shifting how you understand the roles you play here, but how to help others with the work that needs to get done. Sharing the ministry. Some of the jobs we ask people to do in our congregations are way too big for one person, whether that's the senior minister or the religious educator or the board president or the committee chair or maybe some tasks need to stop happening so you can focus on what actually matters. It's time now to consider how things may be done differently, with more folks carrying the load, sharing the work, meeting the moment, being in service to one another. Yeah, the road is going to be muddy and rough, and that's okay. As I said last week, when you hit the mud, it means the wheels are starting to grab onto something so you can get out of the snowbank. Remember snowbanks? Okay, sorry. But we often said during lockdown that we were building the road as we traveled it, and I don't see us actually stopping doing that ever. What suddenly comes to mind is a quote from Louis Beale. In the language of his day, he's asked, "Where do Universalists stand?" And he says, "We don't stand, we move." And that spirit of moving, and moving together. Now, I've shared a lot of big ideas and some challenging ideas, and I suspect some of you have some opinions about my opinions. I will be around for a little bit after the service for conversation, so I hope you'll circle up with me. But know that if we are to do what we are called to be agents of love in the world, we must embrace a different way. I'm calling for a big change. Sophia Betancourt, who is now our UUA president, said during our week at General Assembly that we need to start getting obnoxious about our faith. We need to be proud of the love that we know is true. We need to be proud of how we work together. It is time. It's time for all of us to thrive. We must remember the wisdom of all of us and those who have come before that tell us over and over again that we must do the work together. We must know in our bones that this institution is ours, that this community is one with a distinct and powerful mission, and that this Unitarian Universalist faith is centered around a life-saving love. Sharing the ministry means letting go of the small things that distract, the things that distract us from who we are and how we are called. This is how we build a new way. This is how we weather change. This is how we turn our world around. This is how we thrive. The group Mamuse has written a number of amazing songs that speak to the moment, and I am so honored to offer this song as our prelude, or postlude, whatever, the other thing.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
I have a few announcements for you. Educating for Change invites you to join them on 21 July for a trip to view the new Afrofuturism exhibit at the National Museum of the African American History and Culture. There are limited tickets available to claim your spot, so contact Rose Sokol by July 19th. Check your e-weekly for details about the fall Wellspring options and the new Lead at RRUUC program. We are invited to join fellow UUs on a civil rights pilgrimage to Mississippi, October 18th through the 22nd. Again, check the e-weekly for details on registration. Now, this is a big one. RRUUC will be closed the next 2 Sundays as we once again join Cedar Lane and Fairfax to preach along the Potomac. Services will start at 10:30, and you may join virtually, or you can go to the other congregations to be there in person. And there's a special note here. It says, stress this one. Do not show up here at this sanctuary because we won't be here. I want to say thank you to Kimberly for 2 terrific services, and to Cliff and to Jen and to Eleanor for your fabulous music today, the tech team up there who works their magic, and to all the staff here at River Road who consistently do a fabulous job. Thank you.
The chalice is now extinguished, but its light lives on in the minds and hearts and souls of each one of you. Carry that flame with you as you leave this place, and share it with those you know, those you love, and most especially those you have yet to meet. Go in love, go in joy, go in peace.